Other one, so I'm really super excited. I'm gonna take my first lesson in learning how to use a Wushu staff. I'm really, really excited. He probably doesn't even know it yet, but I've been following this gentleman for years and years and years, since like 80s and early 90s when he was competing and stuff. And what a pleasure it is to have him first of all in our school. And he has a whole online training, teaching Wushu and teaching the weapons, and the one that I'm really interested in is the staff. So I asked him to be here today to give me my my first lesson using the Wushu staff. So thank you for joining us. Have fun, and let's see what we can learn. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. There you go.
So this is basically a whole tree, and it's tapered, and that's why you can do some of the things with the Wushu staff that makes it different than like an Okinawan one or something where it might be tapered at both ends, and so the balance is right in the center. This balance is off center.
Off center, right.
And so you can do things like that.
Right.
You can do things like this, you know, where you're not holding it in the center, and it gives you more range, and you can really whip the other end. And so that's why I think they designed it the way they did. But I still do some of the regular stuff that's some of the stuff.
Normal staff.
Yeah, but you know, I sort of have my own.
Your own idea?
Own twist on it, maybe. So the things that I felt over the years were important, and when somebody learns the staff, you know, one of the best things about learning a weapon, maybe you've experienced this with some of the Filipino weapons you've done, is how much it can help your empty hand skills.
Absolutely.
And most, you know, like it's interesting to me that like a lot of the things like Aikido were derived from just the sword, you know, and so there's things about, you know, being able to, you know, not force a weapon, but learn how to move with it, where it almost becomes like a part of you. And I found it to really help me on defense, because a lot of times I'm basically trying to move the staff as close to me as possible without hitting myself. And so you have to accommodate the staff, you know, and so I think it's really good for sort of developing the yin side. And you know, like the first three strikes that I'm going to show you are very yang. You know, they're strong,
Hard style.
hard strikes and stuff. But there's also yin involved, and I think we can see that right away.
Awesome.
But I love these.
So you said the staff, the length of the staff, as long as it's taller than you?
Yeah, that was the last time I heard about the rules.
Okay.
Because I haven't really kept up with that much. But what we do for our students is put tape here, and that's what they used to allow that in competition. But now you have to take that tape off during competition. Okay. And that was so you could slide and feel, oh, that's right where I can let go, and I'll still have space for it to swing underneath the arm.
Okay.
But I wanted to show you three basic strikes today: the horizontal, the overhead, the uppercut, and then one more complex one called the cloud.
Okay.
And most people, whether you do Okinawan weapons or whatever, are going to recognize these strikes. They're very basic. And what I do is basically take 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. And these are the first things that I show our students. Okay, and so what I want you to do is basically point, we're going to do it like this. You're going to take your skinny end and point it right at me, like that. And put it right against your hip like you would for a karate punch where you pull back. Right. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to rotate to the other side and try to finish it right at the same time. Yeah, and my shoulders, you know, I want good rotation in my shoulders. Boom! And then I want both ends of the staff to stop at the same time. Okay. And so they have to cooperate with each other. What I'm doing here is kind of the opposite of what I'm doing here. And the interesting thing is, like this side is pulling back, right? And this side is thrusting out. And most of the pulling can be used on defense. And this can be used as a strike, and it can be used as defense too. But you know, I'm always thinking about things like that. You know, what am I doing with that end? What am I doing with this end? And that's the nice thing about Kali is that you have these two separate things. And so I feel like they're really, you know, it's really just usable, you know, on defense and offense immediately. And this is a little more cumbersome, you know, but you do get that extra range too.
Absolutely.
Extra reach. Okay, let's do a few more of those.
So just to try
yeah.
Can you give me
I'm doing it without pivoting my feet,
Okay.
but there's nothing wrong with pivoting your feet. You know, because like what I found is, I don't want my students to be stiff. And if a pivot is going to help you get the separation that you need, people can always rotate more with a pivot.
Right.
And we always pivot in boxing. I try to, it's interesting because just to talk about that point for just a second is, like I love like throwing boxing like body shots with a pivot,
right.
But you're not always going to pivot. You're not always going to have time. Yeah. And but basically, if I'm shadow boxing and I'm working with students, I'm having a pivot because I want them to do the biggest range of motion. And so I want you to do whatever you need to do to get, and really basically it's a 180, almost a 180 with the staff, right? And so your shoulders can do almost a 180 too, like that.
I feel like when I'm not pivoting, I'm engaging more core.
Yeah.
To allow more. So.
Yeah. Then you need more separation, like that. Yeah. I really like to work on power with it and finishing a really good finish where everything finishes at the same time. There's no leftover residual energy that causes you to shake or wobble.
Is that one of the characteristics of Wushu, especially when I see you do form? It's like move, and stop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that I thought was the most impressive when I first saw martial arts, but that's not just Wushu. Like if you see a really good, like a lot of the really top Japanese form stylists now come from either, Shito-ryu or what's the Goju.
Right.
And I love seeing like the guy who won the Olympic Games in Japan. That guy is sharp. Yeah. It's just bam, and they stop. And that takes really good posture, balance, and timing. It takes rhythm. It takes a lot of good words, to accomplish all that. And that's what fascinates me about this stuff.
That's funny because I've only really noticed that in Wushu.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, of course, I've seen it in karate systems, all this stuff, but you can clearly see that in Wushu.
And I also think there's something, really that feels really good when you accomplish that. When you bam, spin around, like that, and everybody kind of goes, ooh, and you feel like that inside too, and that's one of the great things about forms,
Absolutely.
You're not getting beat up, you're not beating up anyone, but you can get that really strong, like warrior feeling going, and I love that.
Awesome. So this is just what did you call this one?
Horizontal
It's just a horizontal strike, both ends.
Yeah.
One.
And basically, like if you were going to hit me with it, and a lot of times I'll hold the stick up like this for a student, you just hit it, and then go, and go, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move on, since you've mastered that. We're going to move on to the overhead strike. And this one, this is the easiest strike for students to learn because the negative part of it, the retracting part, is very simple. It's opposite what you're doing with the other hand.
Right.
This is a little less obvious. Like if I don't do this correctly, or if this like goes around like that, that's going to affect this end, right? And so if I want to hit someone on top of the head as clearly as possible, bring that strike over and come straight down, then the other side has to cooperate too. And
kind of reminds me of rowing a little bit.
It is.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that.
Okay.
I don't know how. I mean, I'm not an expert rower or anything, but I think a lot of times I would say, hey, like you're dipping an oar. You know, with that one, you wouldn't reach way out like this probably. And boom, like that. And so this is the same. And I don't want to have my shoulders going like this. So I try to do the exchange. And I'm trying to keep my shoulders, boom, level, boom, level, boom, boom, boom.
Got it.
And what I could do, so go ahead and get in that position. And I'm going to take this, so I'll take this out and go like this each time.
So now you have to move it over.
Yeah, go ahead. Now hit, no.
Oh.
Yeah, boom, like that, yeah. And I take it out, and boom, good. I take it out, and boom, good. I take it out, boom, good. And the thing is, I feel like, there's a lot of yin and yang in these movements. It's not just about coming down. It's about what you do with the other side. And that's why I was comparing it to the basic, traditional martial arts punch. That's how we sort of learn about there's another side to this extension here, and it's what you're doing with the other side of your body to create balance, and help create that energy. So let's move on to the uppercut. Okay, and a lot of times I would tell them, you know, like if you were going to take some sand at the beach and try to toss it that way, but again, if I don't get this coming straight over the top, I'm not going to be able to get that to come up from underneath. Yes, exactly. And so, boom, but I'm going to my hip again. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Boom.
That. I can feel definitely the other side. You gotta tighten up.
Yeah. Like that. Like that. It's a scoop, right? Scoop.
Oh, yeah.
Scoop. 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 Like that. And so you can do this one on here too. So go ahead and take your position. So I'm going to be under here. You scoop up and hit that point, and then I take it out. And yeah, I take it out. Good. I take it out. And whoops, I didn't take it out. And take it out. That's very good.
Wow, that's really powerful. I can
Yeah.
feel it. But it really helps that when you mentioned the two hands together,
Yeah.
the pushing and pulling,
Yeah.
versus just one hand.
And what you're doing is you're you know, executing a principle.
Absolutely.
And that's something that it's not a style.
No.
You know, it's
And it's universal.
yeah, it's universal. And that's why people can recognize it even if they're not from your style, you know. And I love that too. You know, so I always tried to emphasize those things when I competed in forums, things that I knew anybody could understand, and it wasn't a style. It was like they can understand power, they can understand speed, balance,
You understand all the
precision.
attributes, exactly.
Yes, yeah, and that's not a style,
Right.
you know.
Wonderful.
Okay, let's go one more.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the cloud, and you know, this was kind of a strange thing. Is you see my hands,
Right.
like that one, palm facing away, palm facing back this way, and that's how I start a cloud, because most of the clouds in a Wushu form are to the left. But when you learn it as a basic, you can. I want to have the kids do both sides, even though in
Does that require a switch hands? Or
it does. It can require a switch of grip, right? Because when I go for this side,
So this
when
is
I go
fine.
over to this side, I let that go between my thumb and my forefinger,
Right, got
and I
it.
stop it. And then when I get back, boom, I'm back to here. And I really like this one too, to sort of emphasize the turning of the hips right at the last moment. You know, like I'll do the first part, boom, so I get the hips. Do the first part, boom, like that, and lock it in.
Whip.
Yeah, it's the whips because it should have an acceleration right up to the point where it finishes. You know?
Got it.
And that's when you get that real feeling of satisfaction again. I was able to make that thing accelerate because a lot of times I see people do clouds and it looks like they're almost slowing down right at that important point. And that's why you get sort of beat up on them. The staff is gonna hit you. But the thing is, you know how this is just an interesting thing too, is when you whip something, if you keep this close to your body, if I went like that, that's gonna crash into me a lot harder than this.
Right,
You know?
right.
And so like if you look at a bicycle wheel spinning and you look at the hub, it's not turning as fast as the outside is going.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the principles that we try to use in the staff. Like when I'm manipulating this from the center, I can really whip the outside to a tremendous amount of speed, you know, because of the gearing kind of. It's like a gear ratio, you know.
You mentioned the form. I don't think we can do it right now, or I can learn it right now. But can you do that in the first form you said? Is that too hard to learn, or to do?
No, it's not. I actually walked through it once. I'll just kind of walk through it.
Yeah.
And you'll see some of these principles and techniques in this very basic. It's a very basic form, but I wanted it to include flowers. And let me just touch on flowers a little bit, because I was telling you how, you know, like it's sort of, you know, like when you do a reverse flower. This is a reverse flower. Look at my body, you know, moving.
So
I can
that's an
keep that
upward
really-
figure eight.
What's that?
That's an upward figure eight.
Yeah, it's an uppercut. It's definitely an uppercut.
Yeah.
And in boxing, it sort of reminds me of a shoe shine. You know,
Right.
when you shoe shine like this, and some people do that tremendously fast, you know, and they move their feet, you know, at the same time. And I love that this kind of taught me to do that. And you do it with swords too, like I told you, I do the double broadsword. And this I can do this with double broadswords. But it was the staff that taught me how to keep it really true, because I see people manipulate broadswords where they're not really straight, they're not really rolling like a wheel. You know, you got to be kind of loose and really accommodate the staff, the path of the staff. You know, get out of its way, let it do its thing. You know, and so that's what I love about it.
Let it do its thing, like it's got its own thing.
Yes.
You're following the staff. Your staff's not following.
Yes,
you.
exactly.
Okay, wonderful.
Exactly.
All right. So what is that basic form?
Okay, so the basic form, it starts like this, and there's a 1-2, 1-2, and an overhead strike, uppercut and uppercut.